Hi, everyone. I hope this message finds each of you so very well. I'm speaking to you from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I could not be more delighted to have the pleasure of interviewing Brooke Deanne, who is joining me from Chandler, Arizona. Brooke is a trauma healing mentor, rapid transformational therapist, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner who has overcome the grip of religious cult indoctrination, abuse, and toxic relationships with both professional mastery and profound lived experience. Her mission is to help survivors reclaim their power by transforming the narratives that once held them captive. Through her holistic and compassionate approach, Brooke supports women in breaking free from cycles of trauma, restoring balance to their nervous systems, and releasing outdated patterns. She guides them towards deep integration of mind, body, and spirit, empowering each woman to reclaim her voice, her body, and her truth, so that instead of chasing love, she can finally come home to herself. Brooke is the author of Grief Monster, a beautifully illustrated children's book about grief, and Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful, Losing My Religion and Finding Faith, her raw and powerful memoir of breaking free from indoctrination and discovering faith beyond dogma. A sought-after speaker, she is the founder of Goddess Rising and the Thriving After Abuse Summit, as well as the host of an acclaimed podcast, Goddess Rising. I'm looking forward to talking with Brooke about her difficult childhood within a religious cult, her profound grief journey through loss that became a portal to deeper self-discovery, and the powerful transformation that carried her from broken to reborn. We'll also discuss what it means to stop chasing love and come home to yourself, and more, for a courageous interview, sure to be filled with liberating truths. Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life. Hi, Brooke. A heartfelt welcome to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Oh, thank you, Irene, for having me here. It's such a beautiful space to be in and to have this conversation with you. I love what you're doing to really help people through their grief and to come out the other side.
As we have both done. And it's not an easy journey, but oh, is it worth it, right? Oh, is it worth it?
Yes, it is worth it for sure.
So let's start from the beginning. In what ways you had a really difficult childhood? So talk to us about your childhood within a religious cult and how it taught you that, which is exactly the opposite of where you are now, that emotions were to be ignored, difficult subjects were to be suppressed. And how did all of that affect you?
So, what's crazy is I look at my childhood now and I didn't know any better, right? So as a young girl, I didn't know what I was surviving in, and I didn't know that there was something beyond that. I just was in it, right? But I know that as a little girl, I knew that I couldn't question things. And when I did, I was usually shut down. And so I really started to learn that early on. And being raised in a narcissistic family dynamic, my father was the narcissistic person. He was controlling. His demeanor was one minute he was a teddy bear and the next minute he was, raging. He was angry about something. He was volatile. It was like you could flip a switch and he was a completely different person. And
So you spent your childhood on eggshells.
yes, I didn't know what was going to happen next. My parents fought a lot. I remember being a little girl just hiding in the basement, waiting for them to stop the screaming and the dishes to stop flying. And I just remember just being afraid, honestly.
Wow.
And I was alone. I was the only child for a long time, and so I just kinda really kept to myself. I was a quiet little girl, and everybody told me that, "You're such a good little quiet girl." Well, because I had to be. Because I had to be. I was expected to be. And growing up in the religion that I was raised in as a Jehovah's Witness, that was really the messaging you got is you have to be a good girl, right? You have to be that perfectly conditioned spiritual example. And if you're not, well, you're going to get punished, right? You're going to either get punished by the religion, God is watching you, you're going to get punished by God. And of course, I didn't want the shame that came from my family, right? Especially my father, you know. And so, but there was something in me, something that was, I don't know, fire in my soul that was like, you know what? I came here to be rebellious, apparently. And so I decided to push all the narrative. I tried to push the boundaries. I wanted to desperately be like the other children. Because when you're raised in a cult like this, you're told that you can't be like the other kids. You have to be different. You can't celebrate the holidays.
That's
You
so
don't
hard.
Oh, it's so hard. You don't get to celebrate your birthday. I had to go sit in the library. I couldn't have the cupcakes with the kids. I couldn't enjoy life basically. Right? I couldn't enjoy what everybody else was enjoying. And then they kind of sell you the story. Well, it's okay. You still get presents. Like you still so they tried to sell you the fact that you do still get things, which is fine. But at the same time, you just wanted to be like your peers. And we couldn't be like our peers. We were told that we could only associate with the people that are inside of the society. Anybody on the outside, we were told was evil and that they were from Satan's world. And so as a little girl, I looked at the outside world as something that was a threat, that these people on the outside were evil and something was wrong with them. And so when you're getting that messaging as a child, what are you supposed to believe? You believe that this is true. Your parents are teaching you this. You're like, okay, well, I guess this is the truth. This is the truth. People on the outside are evil, and I have to stay in this. This is my only safe place is this community. I can't go outside this community.
Talk
And
about power and control.
yes, and you're stifled, right? You're really restricted to this one space. And there was something inside of me that wanted to break free.
Was your father also raised as a, Jehovah's Witness?
He was, yeah. I was a third generation witness.
So he had all
So
this bottled up inside of him, and he didn't even know what that was.
for sure. Yeah, he had his own anger. He had his own trauma. He had his own wounding, right? And I look at him now and I see that. You know, my father was my first abuser, right?
I had one too.
Yeah. And then my second abuser was God. I had an abuser because I had a trauma bond with God. I was taught to fear him, but he was also supposed to be my source of love. It was the same messaging I got from my father. You're supposed to fear me, but I'm also supposed to be your source of love. And so, why wouldn't I then recreate a pattern in myself that I would also find an abusive relationship later?
Well, how could you know anything different? And I did the same exact thing, Brooke, because for my situation, I thought that my husband was gonna be a step away from my father because he was as angry as my father. But then I realized I went from the fire into the frying pan. It was basically the same thing, and you had the same experience, right?
Yes, I did. Carbon copy. Yeah, carbon copy of my father, just, some different attributes.
Right. So you experienced domestic violence like your mother did.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if my mother ever got hit, but my mom was definitely an abused woman. I never saw it. I never saw that if that did happen. My father was physical with me and, but at the same time, that was okay generationally. Generationally, that was the messaging that we were getting from the Bible. It's okay to use the rod against your child,
Yeah.
right? It's okay to spank your child. And now we're seeing the effects that this corporal punishment has given to our children. We're seeing the traumatic effects, right? It's trickled down. It's why we
And there's so many people in the world who were brought up this way, and they have trauma, and they don't even know it. They don't even know it.
They don't. No. They think that because it's all they know.
Right. I mean, it's so sad. That's what you're in the world for, and that's what I'm doing, right? That's we're trying to help people. Um, so how long were you married to your first husband before you started saying, "This is not right"? And that must have been like it was for me, this had to be huge for you
Yeah.
to break away and could not have been an endorsed behavior and all that kind of thing. So what happened to you? How long were you married?
So I met him when I was 15 years old. And just to kind of rewind a little bit, I don't know why I think this is an important part of the message here, is that when I was in that cult, if you had sex before marriage, you got disfellowshipped, which meant that you were outcast from the society, if you will. And so no one could talk to you, no one could associate with you. So this happened. I met this boy, right? I was a young girl, of course. I'm blossoming. I'm wanting to, I'm curious. You fall in love, you think you're in love, right? And so what happens is I have sex before marriage, I get caught, I have to tell the elders in my congregation, and then I get disfellowshipped. So you get shamed in front of
Oh
everyone.
my God.
And I also had to spend a year outside of that society with no friends, no one to talk to. I would go to the church, if you will, and no one could look at me. No one could smile. No one could talk to me. And I just had to live this very like put in a corner, right? I was put in a corner and very shamed. And that was a traumatic experience for me in itself. But because that happened, I became angry. I became very angry and I was like, what is wrong with this system that they outcast the people that they supposedly love and make you, have this punishment? I was very much against it. And so I became very angry kind of with the religion and my family, but I also wanted to have contact with this boy. And so my parents got the law involved. They put a restraining order against him because they wanted to control me even more. They did not want me to be around this boy. And so what does that do to a young girl that's been controlled her whole entire life? Well, she wants to burst free. She becomes even more rebellious. And so I ended up eloping when I was 18 years old. The minute I turned 18, getting the restraining order off and eloping and marrying him. My parents didn't talk to me for 6 or 7 years after that. My
Wow.
father was livid. And shortly after I married him, we had a fight. And that was the first moment that I realized that something's not right. But I didn't know what to do. He got angry and he suffocated me with a pillow.
Oh
And
my God.
as I was like fighting to breathe
Oh my God.
and fight for my life, he let me go finally. I ran into the bathroom. I didn't know what to
Oh my
do.
God.
Um, and I questioned, what have I just done? But my pride wouldn't let me crawl with the tail between my legs and go back to my parents. I just said, well, I made this decision. I'm going to have to make it work. And I kept on going, but not even realizing that this was a form of abuse, like not even really registering that. Right. But I just continued in that path. And the more it was like he was volatile. He was the teddy bear, just like my dad. But then if he got angry, he became that source of pain and suffering for me. And there was so much of that hitting and breaking things and violence. And as the years wore on, we were together for 17 years. We had
Oh my
children.
goodness.
Yes, I stayed for a very, very long time. There was infidelity, and I left at one point, but then I still went back because as an abused woman, you just don't know, like, how attached you are to this person that you see potential in. Like, you see that there may be something good in them because there is, right? There's something good in every abuser. I mean, it is the truth. But the evil side or the insidious part of them is always going to win out until they actually heal themselves. And I always tell people it's because they're hurt people, they're wounded people themselves. And I just stayed in that environment for so long and didn't realize what I was existing in because it was all I had ever
It's all
known.
you knew.
It's all I knew. Yeah,
And you
and
didn't have family backing you up or anything, which is
no,
exactly we have our commonality. My family abandoned me for 23 years.
that's a long time.
So who did I have to talk to? And I found people outside the construct of my life, including started going to therapy in my case that started to help me. So you had a long dark night of the soul, right? And did this start while you were married? You were going through this?
No, I left my marriage and the cult at the same time. So in 2017, my then husband, he found out that the cult was a sham. Told me about all of the CSA cases that were going on that were really being highlighted, and they were in the news, right,
Oh,
against this religious entity. And it was wild what was happening, and this really made me question, even though I kinda was, like, afraid when he said to me, because I was trained to stand up for my beliefs. I was trained to, like, refuse anything when someone says something's wrong with this religion, and so I reacted with that way, but when he started to kind of put, like, these seeds of doubt, well, it started to make me question things, and I started to do my own research, and I really opened up to like, okay, well, maybe I need to actually look further into this. And I let my intuition kind of lead me. And in that same moment, and all of that same place, I really realized I was existing in an abusive relationship. And the day that he put a knife to my throat is the day when I realized, what am I
And
doing?
you had kids there and you were seeing all this too?
Thankfully, my children were upstairs.
But
So,
still, they had like you grew up
yeah.
seeing all this stuff with the flying dishes and all, your kids had to be affected
Oh, my kids
by
were definitely affected, yes, especially my oldest, yeah, and to this day, I obviously you have regrets, but I always tell myself I did this path for a reason. Even though the path was difficult and I wish that the younger version of me would have known better, at the same time, I'm here today because I was meant to be, and I trust that, I believe that, and I just go with the fact that I can't have any regrets, right? But yes, everybody, I was affected. My children were affected. And at that moment, I just realized it was time to part ways. It was time to let go. And then being severely trauma bonded to him, I didn't realize like what it was like to come off of a chemical trauma bond that you have. Like your body, like is so used to that high and low of the relationship, it's like a dependency. I always tell people, maybe I never tried heroin, but I know what it was like to get off of heroin because he was my special choice of heroin. Like, and so when I left the relationship, I mean, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I had severe anxiety, I lost 25 pounds in 6 weeks. I was severely, severely detoxing from this relationship, this
yeah,
toxicity.
did you, like, blast off, or did he know you were leaving, or was that even more traumatic?
Well, it was a lot. Yeah, it was a little bit of a battle to get him to go, even though, like, because, we were codependent, right? I mean, all abusive relationships, we have a codependency on each other, and so it's like we're like, we can't well, it's like we wanna go, but we're also afraid to go, and we feel like we need this person, right?
Right.
And we're afraid to lose them, because we're afraid to be alone, really. But I mean, we finally did. We parted ways. And so that was the beginning of the journey of losing my identity entirely, the religious beliefs, being a wife, all of these things. I'd really just survived by taking care of my children
Wow.
and putting my head down, going to work, figuring my life out because I couldn't actually process what happened to me. I was still in shock and denial, honestly. I really was. This is the grief cycle we're talking about, right? I was in the shock and denial for a very long time until I felt like I got bulldozed by the universe when now my ex-husband died tragically of an overdose. And this happened in 2020 when the whole world
Wow.
blowing up with COVID and people were afraid and things were changing on such a huge level, right? And then my whole world shatters again where he
Because even though you couldn't live with him anymore, you still had this unbelievable connection.
we did. Yes, a
Yeah,
soul connection. I tell everybody
yeah.
it was when he died, I knew it before he even before I knew that he died. I knew it the night before, and I felt like I had this, like, urge to call him, like, "Something's wrong with him, I wanna call him," and I mean, we've been divorced for 4 years, I don't I'd never had that feeling or that sensation before, and then the next day, he didn't show, and he didn't answer his phone to pick up the kids, and I just knew he was gone, and I told my then partner, I said, "He's dead, he's gone," and he goes, "No, no, that's crazy talk. That's not true." And I was like, "No, he's gone." Sure enough. No, I
Well,
checked.
you're obviously
Yeah,
you hadn't awakened yet to your abilities, but obviously you were intuitive and you had a sense about things.
for sure. I just knew something was wrong. And sure enough, that was the case. And that was really when I say my dark night of the soul really, really happened. My spiritual awakening happened. Because now it made me have to like face everything I had ignored, all the pain, all the things that I had been told, all the beliefs that I had found out that were a lie, I actually had to go and like look at it instead of just avoiding it because I was running from it, girl. But it was chasing after me, like, and it just caught up, and I had to sit and look at it now.
Wow, wow. So what would you say was the exact spiritual awakening that you had?
Mm.
I mean, I know this was the pivotal grief event that catalyzed it, but
Yeah.
what happened one day? Like, you're going through all this, you're feeling empty, you're having all this experience, and then what happened to turn you towards spirituality like this?
It was the grief.
It was the grief.
It was the grief. I'm getting emotional even talking about it. It was like when he died, it was like my heart broke. It would literally physically felt like my heart broke. I was like, "What is this feeling?" Like, it was like I don't even know how to explain. It was like this deep pain in my chest, and I think you're very familiar with this, Irene.
Yes, I am.
And I was like, "What is this? Why am I feeling this deep?" It's like I felt like I cracked in two. Like I was like, Am I gonna be okay? Like, is my heart gonna survive this?" Like, that was the type of pain that I was feeling. And so when I felt that, I was like, okay, I've never experienced a grief like this. And I wanted to do more research because I was told in the religion that when people die, our loved ones die, they go to sleep. They're just like basically in limbo somewhere sleeping, and that God is going to resurrect them after Armageddon comes and God destroys the wicked. And he's going to resurrect them. And then we're all going to be in a paradise on earth and we're all going to be perfect little humans.
How marvelous.
Yeah. Very good fantasy, right? But now I didn't have that belief anymore. And so I kind of was like, okay, God, first you give me a sham of a religion, and then you tell I don't know what to believe. I was angry. I wanted answers. I desired answers. And so the more that I asked for those answers, it was like stuff started happening. People told me to go watch Surviving Death. And I was like, okay, what is this?
Oh.
It was a Netflix documentary. It's all about near death experiences. Well, I had never been open to the idea of near death experiences because that would have been, Satan and, voodoo in my old religion, right? Like, we couldn't have believed that. They don't want you believing that. They want you, they want you thinking their doctrine. And so this opened my mind and I was like, oh, like, and so I shouted to the universe, I didn't like to say prayer anymore. It was very triggering. And I said, I want you to show me, okay, someone that has had a near death experience. And I don't want to just watch it on a TV. I want someone to literally tell me with their lips all about their near death experience. And sure enough, 3 days later, I used to be an esthetician. Someone lays down on my esthetician table to get their facial, and this woman tells me her near-death experience unprovoked. She just
Wow.
tells me her near-death experience. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. Like, I was dumbfounded, and I'm, like, bawling. Tears are just streaming down my face because I'm like, "Oh my god, somebody listened. Somebody heard me," like, and that was the point of, like, my real opening and awakening because I felt a presence there, and it was a very loving presence. I felt wrapped up in love, and that's the only way I can explain it,
Wow.
and it made me feel like, "Okay, there is something more to this life. There is something more," and that gave me the comfort that I needed at
You
that
had
moment.
been through all this, it was like since you were like 15 or 16, right? And you're married how long? And then
17 years, yeah.
holy moly. And now this is all happening to you. It I can't relate to a single thing. Anyway, I'm teasing you because it's amazing. So now you're opening to this. I guess you're starting to talk to different healers. You're starting
I
to
you know what's funny is I didn't even they were finding me. The first time I went to get a massage, the first time was a medium. She was a medium and she was also a massage therapist. I literally lay on the table and she's like, I have your dead husband here. And I was like, what? Because first of all, you are told that mediumship is also devil's work
Right,
in the
right,
old
right,
religion, and so
right.
I was terrified of psychic mediums. I was like, "This is bad, like, this is wrong," like, very afraid, and so when she's like, "I have your dead husband here," I'm like, "Girl, I just tried to get a massage." I'm like, I like, I didn't know I came here and he was gonna show up, and sure enough, like, he was just finding any way to connect with me, to know that he was there, he was like still there, still watching over us, like making sure everything was okay.
And
Like,
I'm sure, like, once you got a little more of
yeah,
him and you knew more, he started apologizing to you because that's what they do.
that was the first thing he did through that
Yeah.
medium is he apologized. And for,
They get a life
obviously,
review. They get a life review. I'm saying this for those who are listening to this podcast. When you cross over, you get a life review and you get to feel everything that
yeah.
happened to you or that you perpetrated in your lifetime. That's a
Yeah, and
special
how that
kind of.
hurt. Yeah, how it
Yeah.
hurt that person. And
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I can't even tell you how many ways. I mean, he used other mediums that he would just that would seek me out, and then he would be apologizing. And but like I knew it was them because he would say things that no one would know.
Right.
And I think he did that on purpose, obviously, because he knew I was going to be like, this is not true. Like this is crazy. Or and so then I started to seek out mediums, just like you did. I know you did the same story. Then I was like, oh my gosh, I got to have more.
I
I got to
gotta
know
have
more.
right.
And so I just went on this journey of finding more and more of these people that could hear, like, could hear the messages. And honestly, the beauty of being able to hear from the other side is healing that part of self that is the grieving, right? It doesn't take away the pain of them being gone here in the physical, but what it does give us is the fact that you know what, in some shape or form, they're still around. They are still kind of making sure that they're giving us gifts and maneuvering things in our life to help us find joy despite the loss. And I think that's the beauty of it. And just knowing that, like, okay, yeah, so I actually am going to see him again in some shape, form, or fashion, however that is. I tell people I don't know all the answers. What I have understood and what I know about the universe is that it's loving and that there is more to this life than we see, than we understand, and that nobody has all the answers. And anybody that tells you they do is bull. So we, that is the mystery of the universe. I hope I can cuss, by the way.
You can on this podcast, right?
Okay.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Like, but I'm like, it's being able to know that, like, there is just so much mystery out there, and that's part of the fun of the journey.
Yeah, and also, I think that personally, and I'm relating to what happened to you, like me, I've been told that I had to go through what I went through because I had to gather the knowledge and the empathy and heal from it to be able to inspire other people
Yes. Same,
to do
same
the
story.
same thing, right? So, so what was the turning point when you started to use your grief as a companion
Mm.
and got a shift in perspective that inspired you to knowingly inspire you to start healing, that I have work to do here.
So I think my pivotal moment, obviously, I'm grieving my ex-husband at the same time, but I had found a very, I'm gonna get emotional about this. I had found a very healing and like loving partner. Actually, a partner that had the capability to not only hold space, safe space for me, but know and understand that when I would react or when I would do something, it was from my trauma. It wasn't the real me. And it was, I do
What
call
a blessing that you found this person or that he found you or
it,
whatever.
well, I say it was divine intervention. And the way that we met, there was just no question about it. It was like he was put in my life to help me be able to feel safe enough to actually even do the healing work. Like I wouldn't have been able to do it without that space, if that makes sense.
I totally.
Yeah, he was the mirror to help me see, "Oh, that's not how we treat people. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, this is not okay in a relationship. What am I doing?" I was reacting from such a wounded place from all of the abuse. I needed to see and reflect on that. I needed to witness that in myself. And then I needed to say, you know what? This is not going to work out. Or I'm going to chase this man away. He's going to run the other way. And so that's when I said, I got to do the internal work. I need to go in and I need to figure this out. And honestly, I was in my suffering. I had severe anxiety, severe complex PTSD from everything I had survived. And I had to find the root source of my pain. So my ex-husband just deepened the wounds I already had, I tell people. They were already there. He just validated them. and kept them
He
going.
poured kerosene on the fire.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. But the deeper wounds, they were already there. They were there from the cult I had survived.
Mhm.
They were there from the experience I had in my family, but they were also there. And I found the root cause 4 years ago. And I've never actually spoken about this on a podcast. And for some reason, I'm being nudged to do it. And so I'm going to listen.
But someone here needs to hear it.
But my pain had been buried because the brain is a beautiful source to bury pain that is too painful for us to process at a young age. It's there to protect us. And so after I had done so much internal work, so much healing, memory surfaced that was the root cause of my pain. It was the root source.
What a blessing.
And the root source was that my father had been my sexual abuser. I had always known that I had been sexually abused. I thought the perpetrator was someone else. And when I told my dad that I had been sexually abused and that who the perpetrator was, he told me I was a liar, that I had made it up, that I had dreamed it up. And years ago, I didn't think anything of it. But then when I remembered that memory and I questioned my brain, I was like, no, that can't be true. Right? I questioned it because, like, no, this memory, like, I was there. It was visceral. I could see it. I could feel it. I could remember it.
How old were you?
When I remembered it,
How old were you when it happened to you?
the memory begins when I'm 3. And so, but I mean, it could have been younger. I don't know necessarily.
Wow, that was still, oh my.
But the fact is that I didn't believe my brain when it told me this, or I didn't believe my body. And then when I couldn't ignore it anymore, that's when I really did the deeper work of understanding it in psychedelic assisted therapy. Because I found that this is the reason why I had been the way I was, why I chased love and validation, why I thought my body was the way to receive love, and why I had lived with this body dysmorphia and hatred and shame about my body for my entire life. It was like the key to my ability to say, okay, this is very painful to sit here and look at and witness and understand. But at the same time, this is my root source of my pain. And if I don't heal this, then I can't heal all the other stuff. And so I had to do that. And so that's really when I decided to just go all in and dive in and to really discover, you know, what I needed to heal inside and how I could return back to safety within myself, a self-love I'd never experienced.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, we are so in sync with our stories. I was just going to say, you had never learned self-love, and neither had I.
Yeah.
And to get in touch with your healing and to identify what happened with the trauma and all. I also had a similar experience with that. And then you finally you identify it and you start to heal it. And it shakes you up because it's such a change. Your mindset is completely shifting, but it's also a part of loving yourself enough to embrace yourself and not judge yourself for what happened to you. You didn't make it happen. You didn't attract it to you. It wasn't your fault, and all of that kind of thing. And that's really important, which is something I had to learn, is to forgive myself for not being perfect all the time or for what things that happened. It really is a form of self-love. So I know you use shadow work. Tell everyone what shadow work is.
Yeah. So shadow work is really looking at the parts of self that have been repressed, rejected, abandoned. And not necessarily because you wanted to do that, because someone else made you think you needed to repress or reject these parts of self. Because when we have deep trauma, especially when it happens at a younger age, what happens is the psyche becomes fragmented, and now we have parts instead of a whole. At least it feels like that, right? It feels very broken.
Mm-hmm. You do feel broken.
Yeah, and so the shadow work is really helping you sit with these darker parts of self, because that's why they call it shadow work. It's really dark parts of ourselves that we want to reject and we want to like avoid and we don't want to look at. But at the same time, these are the parts of self that need the most love, and they're often younger parts of ourselves that need to be looked at and basically integrated into the whole.
Right.
Because ultimately, the story is you were always whole, okay? But you also have to recover and restore those broken parts that happened so long ago.
Right.
And that's
Right.
really the part of healing. Uh,
Absolutely.
Right.
So I want to ask you another thing though. I want you went through shadow work. You also went through therapy.
Yes.
So that was like regular traditional therapy.
Yeah, I've done it, girl. I've done it every modality probably known to man. I feel like at this
Right.
point.
Well, I mean,
All.
I've used, well, that's me too. I've used a ton of therapy. I've used energy work and everything. I haven't done psychedelics. So could you tell everyone a little bit of how that played? I have a friend who helps people use psychedelics to heal. So can you explain to those listening, like, what is she talking about? Psychedelics. How does
Yeah.
that apply?
Of course. Yeah. So I first want to talk about how like traditional talk therapy, like it kind of keeps like re-imprinting that trauma. And so first I found RTT, which is what I do, rapid transformational therapy, which is accessing the unconscious mind so we can get to the root cause of the trauma.
Is that done through hypnosis or
That's done
through?
through hypnosis. Yep,
Okay.
that's done through hypnosis. It's really powerful. It's very transformational. It happens very quickly, right? So you can be in traditional therapy for 10 years and not get anywhere. This is so different. It's fast, right? Psychedelics are very much the same. Okay, psychedelics are not for everybody, I like to say. So there's a lot of psychedelics out there. There's ketamine, which is a lot more mainstream now. There's psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms. There's ayahuasca. There's San Pedro. There's quite a few things that you can kind of tap into. But I felt very intuitively called to psilocybin, the magic mushroom. And I didn't hesitate to go all in when I got the message that I needed to work with this medicine. I said, I'm going to work with this medicine because while I was working with my unconscious mind and hypnotherapy, there was a part of me because I'd had that sexual abuse that really couldn't tap into safety. And psychedelics can really help support the body in a different way. It really heals the nervous system in such a different way, but it helps you work through your unconscious, your shadow work in a very beautiful way. I mean, it can be very difficult, but again, you're going to move through things really quickly if you can sit in this space.
With someone helping you as visions came up, they took notes and helped you process it afterward? Is that how it works?
So no, I actually did it in ceremony setting. I would go into the setting in a safe place where I felt safe, and I did the internal work myself.
Wow.
But I always tell people this is about preparing self for you to do this. I don't recommend going into an ayahuasca ceremony. A lot of people do this, and you come out with psychosis, and you come out with even more fragmented self because you can't integrate if you haven't already done like the preparation for this work, right? It takes a lot of internal quietness, stillness that some people don't know how to have. Well, many don't know how to have, to be
But
honest.
now with your racing mind and all the anxiety that's going through it all the time.
Yeah, and what psychedelics do is they amplify what you already have within. So if you have that racing mind, then you have that anxiety, well, it's going to amplify what is already happening within. And so you really need to learn how to be, I always tell people, I want you to meditate before you go into psychedelics. You need to be an avid meditator before you want to go and sit with space like this, because it's going to be difficult if you can't process.
I'm guessing, but I'm betting also that in your healing that you help people to learn how to meditate and to do some healthy healing through that too, right? For there are people who've never meditated before, they don't know how to access anything, their brains are too busy. So you probably do that, right?
So I don't help you learn meditation, but what I do help you do is your foundation, in which is healing your nervous system and learning how your nervous system operates, because it's a holistic approach, mind, body, spirit, right? So through my hypnosis recordings, I am teaching you how to meditate because I'm asking you to once a day sit quietly, listen to the recordings, so we can repeat to the mind what we want to actually believe about self, what we want to actually believe about the world, because that's how the mind learns, right? But we also have to retrain the nervous system, especially if you were in abusive environments. We need to retrain the nervous system to know that it's safe again. And so I'm teaching people this foundational piece too, so that they can understand when they're not regulated and what's really happening inside of their body, because we become so disconnected from our bodies half the time, we don't even know that we're we're a mess. We're just living in chaos. And our body is chaotic. And it's why we get sick. It's why we have disease. It's why we have
Absolutely.
autoimmune disorders. It's why people are so unhealthy now, because ultimately they don't know and understand the state of their nervous system.
And the nervous system keeps score.
That's right.
The nervous because I will always say because grief or anxiety or whatever goes into your body. So probably a lot of what you do is help them to get the energy of that out of their bodies so that they can start to function a different way. And they're also shedding outdated patterns, right? Things that they learned that don't really make no sense for them.
Yeah, I'm helping them emotionally process it, not only through their mind, but through their body. So somatically being able to process the information and then to release it from the body. So guess what? Next time that your ex-husband pops up and calling you on the phone, you're no longer angry or get triggered. You're just neutral. You're like, you don't feel anything. You have no response because now it's not interesting anymore to your body or to your brain because you've neutralized the trigger.
Right. Oh, that's marvelous. I think
Mhm.
that's marvelous. And why do you say that pain is sacred, the doorway to a woman's power?
So I would say that nobody can rise if they're not forged through a fire. There's got to be some pain. There's got to be some discomfort in order to move, right? If life is all easy and wonderful and perfect and like, well, there's going to be no growth. There's no challenge, right? There's no challenge. And then, well, life is actually kind of uninteresting. To be honest, we act like, oh, we want a perfect little happy-go-lucky life, but at the same time, sometimes we want a challenge because challenge is what humans we desire challenge. We thrive off of that. And so even though, it sounds like you and I have had a very similar past, very difficult, a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, a lot of
Yes,
grief, right? It also got us to this other side of how beautiful it looks from the view from up top. Right? We climbed a really big
that's
mountain,
right.
right? We were forged in a fire. We had some pain, but the pain also created this beautiful space where we could show others how to heal from their pain and what they needed to see and understand about this pain.
Right.
We hadn't experienced that, we wouldn't be able to pass on the wisdom.
You're absolutely right. So, Brooke, why do you say that pain is sacred, the doorway to a woman's power? And another thing you like to say is that we need to stop chasing love and come home to ourselves. Can you explain each of those statements to us?
Yeah. Well, pain, I think, really it sharpens us, right? We have to go through sometimes the suffering, but it sharpens us to rise above the pain and to look at it differently with different, fresh eyes, new perspective, but also to take that wisdom that we get from the pain and share it with others, right? And I think that's the beautiful part of this journey of life and why we're even here is to take what we have moved through, evolved out of, and then grow from it, learn from it, but also then be able to pass it on, right? Like this is the generational wisdom now that we get to pass on, not the generational trauma. Right?
Right.
We get to pass on that. And now I think the most important piece of what I love to teach women is to not only they get to take their power back from the stories from the past, right? You do not have to be last. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. You don't have to believe that you're not worthy, that you have to chase, that you're desperate, that you're a damsel in distress that needs rescuing anymore.
You're not complete without a man.
Yeah, we have had that messaging everywhere, everywhere. In the Bible, it tells us that we're weaker. It tells we have to be in subjection to a man. Then they say it in Hollywood, right? We're the damsel in distress and we need to be rescued. And, we're not anybody if we're not married and we don't have this perfect little life and we're not married, right? Like we've had so much messaging over the years, women specifically, because the patriarchy doesn't want women to be in power. Well, why? Because women are really powerful on their own. They don't like that. Women are very intuitive, right? We are really sacred and being able to, move the divine feminine and divine masculine energy through us. We're oracles, really. That's what it is. And not saying that men can't be either, but it's, there's a certain type of power that has been given women, and it's no wonder why it's been suppressed.
They're afraid of us. They're afraid of our power.
Somewhere
They
along
have to
the line,
disempower us. Yes.
yes, some man was like, "These women are gonna take over the world if we don't suppress them." And so every system that has been put into place through religion, through the way women are treated, has been to do that, to keep us away from our power, to keep us away from our intuition, from our real true wisdom, right? Our inner compass that has already been innately put in us to guide our life.
Right.
They've provided that, right? And that's really was my experience in the cult, being told that I couldn't trust my heart. It was treacherous, right? I could, that was nothing. You couldn't even think of the word intuition. I'd never even heard it before. When after I left the cult, I was like, intuition, what is that? I was never taught about that. But yet knowing that I had it my whole entire life because I was always intuitive. I was born with it, right? We're all
Thank God. I think your intuition, to tell you the truth, saved your life, because I feel the same way. I was a very intuitive child.
Mhm.
Not that it was recognized or anything, but I was one of three, and one of my siblings never really got into the healing thing at all. But I was a seeker, and just like you, whatever could come along to help me, and I kept being guided to the next step and the next step, and then more and more the layers were coming off.
Yes. That's what I always tell people. If you are open, whatever comes into your awareness and it feels like it's a ping, it's a like, hey, go and see this, go and understand this, go and learn about this. Like, if you listen to the call, like you're just opening doors, door after door after door, right? And to your freedom.
Right. And I always tell people who are afraid that walk through the door, and if it doesn't feel right to you, you can walk out that door and go in another one,
There you go.
right?
Exactly.
So now is the time for you to tell us about the wisdom you've shared with the world through your powerful books, Grief Monster and Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful, Losing My Religion and Finding Faith. What would you like to tell us? I read some parts of your Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful. What a beautiful book. So tell everyone about, and Grief Monster sounds like a wonderful book for children. So tell us about that.
So I'll talk about the grief monster. It's here, right here. I have my little grief monster. As you can see, he's pretty precious, honestly. You don't even think of him like as a bad person. He's just so sweet looking. But that's what people always tell me. But that book I was obviously inspired because when my boys lost their father, I saw them grieve and I saw how painful that was for all of us. And they don't have enough books about grief and how children can process grief. This is such a deep emotion that needs to be talked about and expressed and help children to move through, because when we suppress our grief, this is why we have trauma, because we've been told that our emotions are threats. We've been told that our emotions like are bad, like don't be emotional, why are you crying? Like, no, we need to, like, I wanted my boys to know that it's okay, it's safe to cry, it's actually important. If you want to talk about this, we can talk about this. This is an open space. So that's the reason why I wrote this. It's very, near and dear to my heart, and it's very special.
I really do, because how do you teach a child and talk to a child about that?
Yes.
And kids are not, just because they're kids doesn't mean that they're impervious to everything going on, or to loss or anything like that.
Exactly. Now, this is just honestly, I wrote more books. There's more to come in my emotional intelligence series for
Good
children.
for you.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep going with that. But Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful is obviously, it is a book about my life. It's my memoir. It's my life's work, literally my soul's work here in this lifetime about, being raised in a cult, generational trauma, what it was like being in an abusive environment, and why we keep repeating the pattern that we are unconsciously doing that we don't even know that we're doing. And my purpose in writing this book was to awaken people, to awaken within them why they need to heal. Because everyone that has read this book that has told me, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that I was doing this. I didn't even understand this about myself. And so what it's done is I wanted it to be basically a little nudge to say, this is what needs to awaken within me. This is what I need to heal. This is what came from my family lineage that I need to look at to heal, so I'm not passing it down to my next generation, to my children, to my grandchildren. Whatever that you have in your life right now, this is your responsibility. This is your responsibility to look at. And everybody is avoiding doing the work.
I once went to therapy and I said, "I wanna be healthy." And I said, "I don't understand. I'm working so hard to do this." And so I said, "I don't understand why more people don't do this." And she said, "Because when you're in therapy or you're going into healing, you have to face yourself. And a lot of people don't have the courage to face themselves."
Yes. Many people are afraid they can't look in the mirror. They can't look in the mirror, and this is why we have a society that is addicted to, drugs, to alcohol, to their social media, to anything to avoid actually looking at yourself.
Right.
Wanna blame everybody else. So we talk a lot about narcissism and all of those things. Well, they say now that actually they just recently did a study, 1 in 5 people are narcissistic.
Wow.
Like, because not because they're wanting to be evil, it's because they cannot look at themselves. They want to point the finger and blame everyone else in their life. We wanna be the victim, right? But honestly, there's a villain in everybody's story, and the minute that you can stop pointing at the villain and start looking internally, what am I meant why did I have this villain in my story, and what was it meant to show me, and why was I meant to heal from this? Then we're actually starting to do the self-work that we need to do to heal on, in our own evolution of our existence and our consciousness.
That is such a precious, important thing you just said. And I really, it is it's so crucially important for people. And I think that with as they go through all the courage they need to face their stuff, but you and I can both attest to once you've let go of all of that, oh my goodness, you're experiencing life like you never did before. It's
Yeah.
so much better, right? There's so much more space. Let me ask you, if you could go back and sit with the version of you who was lost in the thick of it, like so many people listening to us are right now lost in the thick of it, what would you say to her now?
It's so funny that you asked me this question. I literally wrote something the other day and I said, this is what I would tell that younger version of myself. I would tell her, go and take the leap of faith. Do it being afraid. Because on the other side, you're going to land where you are exactly meant to be. Like, it's just about letting go of the control, trusting the process, letting things unfold. We want to so badly control everything. It's part of our ego. It's what we thought we had to do to stay safe was to try to control our environment. But ultimately, you have to learn the lesson of there is nothing to control anymore. You can't necessarily control everything. All you can control is how you feel inside, and what you believe inside.
And
That's
what
it.
you choose and how you choose to respond to it.
Yes, and that's all you can control. And so anything outside of that that you think that you're controlling, it's not true. It's an illusion. And I think it's just remembering that, like, when you just really trust life, you're feeling different because you're like, "You know what? I trust life is working out for me. I trust that, whatever is happening right now, like, I'm gonna move through it and I'm gonna be okay on the other side." And I think what really saved me, honestly, in my journey is that my sense of humor. I tell people, just sit with your sense of humor. If you can have a sense of humor about a thing, I've
Did you always have a sense of humor, or has your sense of humor this is funny too because I have a sense of humor also.
yeah.
Did you always have it, or did it become sharper as you started healing?
So I've always had it, but I feel like it's become sharper. And now I actually recognize this part of self that's very cynical. But I'm like, this part of myself is like hilarious because she is so cynical. And it's like, and that's okay. I'm like, I'm accepting of this cynical part of me because I'm like, you know what? Made me survive some of the hardest stuff ever. Like I like some people would collapse. Some people would
Absolutely.
make it. Some people would give up. And this part of me kept me going. And I am so thankful that I had that sense of humor to say, you know what, this is dark. Right now, life is grim. But but finding the humor in every situation has been really beautiful. Like, I don't know why this is coming up, but I've been estranged from my parents for a while because of obviously the not being in the cult anymore, and they're very
Right.
heavy in it. And so now I just like laugh about it because I'm like, you know what? It's great. I don't have to take care of my parents. Like now in life, everybody's kind of complaining how they're having to take care of their parents and like they're
Yeah.
doing all these things. And now I'm like, I don't have to worry about them. They've got it. Like they're over there. They don't need me. And I'm like, I also see the freedom in it. Like, it's freeing. Like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe life gave me that because I wasn't meant to. And that's okay. And I had to grieve it. And it's okay. Like, I have found family and love everywhere I've gone.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say, when I was abandoned for 23 years, I made friendships out of they became my family. And even for my son, certain people became aunt and uncle who were not blood related. And I tell people that my life has taught me that love is not about blood, it's about heart. And there are people who are strangers who can have greater hearts and more love for you than your blood, but
Yes.
has their issues or whatever that is, right? So, with that, tell us how healing is not about fixing what's broken, but about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that because that's exactly what my experience was like. It was remembering who I really was underneath all of the trauma, underneath all of the conditioning, all of the things that I was told that I had to do, be, act, all of those things. It was finding the real self, like emerging and being able to just really be like, okay, this is who I really am. This is who I want to be in this life. This is what I want to believe about the universe. And I get to choose it. No one else gets to tell me what to believe. No one else gets to tell me how I have to dress, act, do nothing. Like, I just get to be all of me and I get to embrace my authenticity. And that's really what we came in this world to do, is to be our true selves
That's
and to
right.
really shine. And that is the work of going through all of the darkness.
Absolutely, and very profound. I want to ask you one other question, which is, as you healed, how did that affect your children?
It changed everything. Honestly, it changed my relationship with my children. I was able to be more emotionally present. I lacked the emotional awareness. I had to sit with grief in that as well, thinking, oh my gosh, I could have been such a better parent, even though I was there physically, emotionally. I wasn't always, because I didn't have the capacity. I didn't have the capability. I wasn't taught that. But at the same time, it's also helped me to heal their little hearts and to show them a different way and to help them understand things about life that I was never taught as a child.
Mm.
It's given me the gift to pass down to them that I hope eventually passes down to their children.
Exactly.
And that in itself is really, really beautiful. And so I'm very grateful that I was able to take this path and be able to give that to them because they are my whole world.
Very similar to my story also. And as I healed, my relationship with my son healed, and, we've gone through all of that, and what you're doing when you heal yourself is you're also changing the legacy
Mhm.
of your family. You're not passing the pain on, you're passing the healing on.
Yes. Yeah.
What right? So, let's talk about the importance of presence when it comes to feeling joy.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I can't even tell you. I didn't even know what joy was until I really came to this space in my life where it's like a joy is like bliss. And you don't really know the experience of it until you're allowed to feel that safety and that connection to self and be able to actually really understand what real joy feels like. I don't know how to explain it other than that. I mean, I really feel like this is the thing that we're chasing. We're chasing this for our whole entire life, is finding joy and real happiness, right? We chase it through money, we chase it through career, we chase it through relationship. Like, we are chasing that carrot. And when you actually find a real presence and you actually heal enough to find that, you actually understand what actually the word joy feels like in the body. You actually can connect with it in a different way, and it's something that I always tell people, like, it's something to actually desire. That's the real thing, is being able to be so present, like, it's just the joy is here. Like, it's nothing outside of you. It's nothing that you have. It's nothing that you need to go and get. It's like just here.
I agree, and when you heal, you really have a quicker, unimpeded access to joy,
Yes.
to experiencing it,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Right? So, Brooke, in closing, I'd like to read this wonderful quote from your raw and unflinching memoir, Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful, Losing My Religion and Finding Faith. I love this quote. I do not believe in coincidences. You found this book for a reason. Maybe you're ready to break the chains of generational religion and unchallenged societal norms. Maybe you're ready to hear that you don't have to play small to gain the love and appreciation of others. Maybe you're finally ready to live your own life on your own terms, even if you have to sacrifice some of the things you were raised to love. The family that I thought loved me and would always support me abandoned me. The religion and all the friends I thought I'd know forever excommunicated me. I didn't just leave. I escaped. And now my life is my own. I am free. Brooke, your journey from broken to reborn has made you a radiant guide and role model for women, showing them that they are never alone and that a path forward always exists. Thank you from my heart for this deeply moving interview, filled with its wisdom and liberating truths. I wish you abundant blessings as you shine your bright light for others on their own journeys of healing and transformation.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure so much. And to my cherished Grief and Rebirth podcast fans, stay tuned and see you again soon. And as I like to say, to be continued. Much love. Thanks for tuning in to Grief and Rebirth. Remember, you can dive deeper into everything we've discussed by checking out the show notes and all past episodes at ireneweinberg.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and wherever you love to hang out online. Plus, we're on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and never miss a video. For those of you listening, you'll find links to my 2 books, Good to the Last Drop and They Serve Bagels in Heaven, in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see those books listed right above, so don't miss out. And here comes a special treat. If you sign up for Audible as a first-time user using my link, which you can find in the show notes, you can get They Serve Bagels in Heaven for free. And finally, people often ask me what I read, what I use, and what I recommend for healing and self-care. So I've carefully curated a compilation of those items to share with you. You can head over to kit.co/grief and rebirth to check them out. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, many blessings.